do you say? What do you know? It's the full Monte Sports Show. It is Sunday, May 2nd, 2021. I am your host, Monte Perez, a.k.a. The Sports Whisperer. We are so fired up for today's show. We are so fired up for today's show. We're going to talk about the NFL Draft. Going to have some great guests on. You can follow me on social media, on Twitter, MonteJP231, on Facebook, Monte Perez, and on Instagram, Monte Perez2. Monte Perez2. We were trending number 3 last week. Trending number 3 last week on YouTube. Our goal is to do this 5 days a week. Trending number 3 is a great accomplishment. Our goal is to do this 5 days a week. So how do we do that, Monte? How do we get this show to 5 days a week? How can you help? The first thing you do is just subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts Sports YouTube channel. Real simple, real easy. Then also, if you're watching the show on your phone, on your computer, go to the YouTube site and click thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up for this show. Give us a thumbs up for this show. Again, trending number 3 on YouTube. Trending number 3 on YouTube. And the reason why is we have the best guests all across the country. This week is no exception. In about 15 minutes, Lindsay Bobo is going to join us to talk about the Denver Broncos, some Tim Tebow stuff, what the Broncos did with the draft, and then Brad Ward's going to take us through Cleveland have improved the most out of any team in the NFL this offseason, so he's going to join us for that. Of course, we have our drinking game. Laura sent me a new one that includes Justin Herbert. I have not yet posted it, but I will post it for the next show. So thank you, Laura, for that. Also, some very good news, right? Some very good news. Our good friend, George Lopez, his son has been invited to Arizona to showcase his talents in baseball, but it's very, very expensive. So please, if you can, we are doing a fundraiser for George. I'm sending him money every time I get paid, a little bit here, a little bit there, $5 a week, $10 a week, $25, whatever you can donate. Go to George's Venmo account. It's right there. George, #Lopez, /3771. His son is trying to raise money so he can showcase his talents in Arizona. I don't have to tell you this, people, but if you're parents of AAU, once you get showcased and college coaches see you, they monitor you the rest of your career. This is a big thing for him. And we got a little thank you video. Let's check it out.
It's Christian Lopez. Most of you know my dad, George Lopez. I want to thank everyone at the Full Monte Sports Show for donating to help me go to a showcase this summer in Arizona. Really appreciate all the help and support I got from you guys. Thank you very much. My name's
George Lopez's son. He's trying to raise money so they could he could send them to the showcase thing. It's very expensive. It's ridiculously expensive. So please, if you can, doing a fundraiser, donate $5, $10, whatever you can for a cup of coffee. You can definitely help him out. And again, his account is George/Lopez/3771 on Venmo. We got some donations. Want to get more? So please definitely try to help us out. Okay, started doing this a few weeks ago. Actually, about a month ago, only in Florida, the crazy things that happened in Florida. So let's start our journey today with this. In Orlando, over Easter, a man dressed in a bunny uniform got into a fist fight, a brutal fist fight, with someone on the street. Again, in a bunny uniform. He's throwing down. Okay? And when he got arrested and they questioned him, his excuse was, I've been locked up so long for COVID. I just, my emotions were running wild, and I just let my loneliness get the better of me, and I started fighting. Okay. I'm going to talk about loneliness, especially during the pandemic. But what happened again? They did a SantaCon this year, limited. A fight breaks out with Santa Clauses for SantaCon in Hoboken, New Jersey. What's the excuse the guys give when they're arrested? The same excuse as the bunny rabbit here in Orlando, Florida. Because of COVID, we were just lonely and we let the emotions get better of us. Now, by the way, if you don't know what SantaCon is, it's a bar crawl, meaning you go to each bar in Hoboken from, let's say, 11 to 8. And what they started to do is they started to post on social media, in newspapers, in flyers, if you're going to wear a Santa Claus uniform, please do not wear a beard. Do not wear the beard. Because Santa Clauses were getting so drunk, that people, kids, were crying when they saw Santa Clauses fighting, when they saw Santa urinating, when they saw Santa Claus harassing women. But I just think it's so funny that now people are using the pandemic as an excuse to do crazy things, get into fistfights, urinate in public. Like, what is going on? They're saying the loneliness of the pandemic. Listen, do you want to see me playing right now? If ever there was a cartoon of me playing, this would be it. I am the master of lonely. Okay? I am not sociable. I used to be sociable. I'm not anymore. I was talking to my friend Andrea this week on the phone, and I said to her, over the last 3 jobs that I've had, I have not gone out with any of my coworkers. And her response, God bless her, was, wow, they must be really boring. I'm talking about over 500 people I've worked with in my last 3 jobs, and I've never socialized outside of work with any of them. And her response was, they must be boring. No, I can't blame it on them. This is the George Costanza. It's not them. It's me. Don't tell me it's them. It's me. I'm the master of being alone, being lonely. I've become accustomed to it. Look, when I was 20 years old, I had a body pillow. I discovered a body pillow before anyone had it, before it was popular. I love my body pillow more than I love human beings. It's true. It's true. I'm going to tell you a story about how loneliness comes in before even the pandemic, and it still affects me today. Okay, so when I moved back from California, my parents invested in this pizzeria, Italian restaurant that my family partly owned. And I became the head pizza guy. I became the head chef. Now, at the time, I was working about 80 hours a week. I had a nice little apartment like 5 miles away where basically I would just go there to sleep. I'd get up in the morning, have breakfast. It's the only meal I ate there because I was at the restaurant all the time. I'd eat my lunch at the restaurant, and I'd eat dinner at the restaurant. If I would go home early on those rare occasions, I would make my food and go home. Now, I was dating this woman at the time, and looking back, I was always complaining, like we never see each other that much because, first of all, I worked all the time. She worked in Glen Rock at the high school, so she would come in. My restaurant was in Glen Rock, New Jersey. She would come in the morning. We'd talk. She'd come in before she went back home. But she had full custody of her 3 kids, and the youngest was like 9 years old. So we would go out once or twice a week, and we'd always go out to dinner. That was her way of getting out of the house, getting me to get out of the restaurant. I wouldn't have to cook. And she never slept over because her son was young, so she'd have a babysitter. She'd want to be home by 10 o'clock, so we'd always go out for lunch, dinner early, blah, blah, blah. So I'm buying a table for my home, right? And I'm on the phone with her, and she's like, I'm showing pictures of her, live chatting with her. And I say, I'm going to buy a table, but I'm only getting 1 chair. She goes, you're going to eat alone? I said, I eat alone now. All I do is eat breakfast. So I bought a beautiful table, and I bought 1 chair. Now, let me just explain something to you. Even though I didn't eat dinner there, when I was eating at the table, she was right. Eating at the big table with no other chairs, I felt this is ridiculous. It makes you feel so lonely. So what do? I buy another chair. Now let me just explain something to you. If you thought eating alone at your home by yourself every night is lonely, imagine looking at an empty chair across the way. So I'm eating breakfast with my organic Frosted Flakes. Couldn't even get, Tony the Tiger Frosted Flakes. I'm in my boxer shorts every morning before I go to work, and I sleep with my New Kids on the Block t-shirt, was my sleeping shirt, because I'm reliving the 90s, the glory years. And as I'm sitting at this table eating breakfast every morning by myself, I start to think about, wow, is anyone ever going to sit across from me? Not that I'm a lonely guy. I can date. It's no big deal. But sitting at the table, loneliness, you start thinking about your high school friend who's now a doctor. I'm thinking about my college roommate who now, him and his family model greeting cards. That's what they do. And I'm sitting there eating organic Frosted Flakes with my New Kids on the Block t-shirt. So what do? What do I do so I don't feel like a loser? I put the chairs up on my dinner table like I'm a fifth grade kid in grammar school. Like a fifth grade in grammar school. And what did I do after that? I bought trays so I could eat my meal on my couch watching TV. Or the few nights that I was home, not at the restaurant, eating dinner in front of the TV with my tray. Now, fast forward. Me and my parents would always go out to dinner here in Florida on Friday night. We stopped doing that. We just started again, but we stopped doing that because of COVID. What do? I don't sit at a table with them. I don't sit at my counter. I get a tray and I eat the tray. I don't sit at the dinner table because this is where I feel most comfortable. So when people tell me, I'm lonely, it's like I said, my body pillow is my best friend in the world. Yes, I understand COVID has made us all crazy with loneliness. Okay, we can't go out. But there's a light at the end of the tunnel. My only concern is that when things are back to normal, is this still going to be my normal? Am I still going to be sitting in front of the TV eating my meal? And that is the end of my opening rant. Before we get to the good, the bad, and the ugly, let's do something we love to do. Let's surf the crowd here, see what the comments are. Listen, people, listen. Yes, ex-girlfriend. Yes, yes, self-awareness. Hoboken, these are all drinking games. So when you see these things right here, anytime we mention one of these things, feel free to take a shot. Keep the comments coming. We love having them, and I do love my body pillow. I do love my body pillow. All right, this portion of the good, the bad, and the ugly is brought to you by Beam Organics. Beam creates the highest quality of supplements for balance, performance, recovery, and sleep. We all need better sleep. Go to beamorganics.com. Go to beamorganics.com and check it out. Listen, guys, if you need more sleep, you want more, obviously, more recovery time as we get older, beamorganics.com is the answer. Now, let's start each show with the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right, NFL Draft. The 2021 national champions Alabama Crimson Tide had 6 players drafted in the first round. 6 players drafted in the first round. That ties a record when the 2004 University of Miami Hurricanes did it. And how about Najee Harris? What a special person this kid is. What did he do the morning of the draft? He went to a homeless shelter where he lived for several years. Here he is walking through the homeless shelter, through a big pizza party. There he is as a kid in the homeless shelter. Najee Harris said that I need to give back. When we were down on our luck, I called this place home. I want to show kids that no matter where you come from, if you work hard, believe in God, believe in yourself, you can be a success. So congratulations to Najee Harris for giving back to a homeless shelter that he lived in for years when he was growing up as a kid. I can't tell you how many times I see this, and it really, really breaks my heart, and it warms my heart to see these kids who turn pro, and right away they're giving back to their community. They're giving back to their community. So Najee Harris, you are absolute hero in my book, and thank you for giving back to the community. Let's give him a big round of applause. All right, staying with the good. My friend Andrea, she wanted me to say, if you build it, he will come. Justin Fields, if you build it, he would come. How about them Bears? They traded up to the 11th pick to go get Justin Fields, quarterback out of Ohio State. This is a no-brainer for the Bears. They did what they had to do. Also got a very good offensive lineman out of Oklahoma State in Tevin Jenkins. Look, if Matt Nagy can go 25-13 with Mitchell Trubisky, imagine what he could do with Justin Fields. And Bears fans are loving this picture right here of Justin Fields. If you build it, he will come. They're going to try to build a championship. And think about this, right? If you're a Bears fan right now, Aaron Rodgers may go to Denver. Aaron Rodgers may go to Oakland. You have, Kirk Cousins, who's an absolute disaster in Minnesota. You have Jared Goff now in Detroit. If Aaron Rodgers leaves, when was the last time the Bears can say they have the best quarterback in that division? When was the last time you could say that? Again, Matt Nagy went 25-13 with Mitchell Trubisky. 25-13 Mitchell Trubisky. He should double that with Justin Fields. And finally, to the bad, when people say I'm ride or die, it really bothers me. It really bothers me. I had a woman that I dated once tell me, Monte, when it comes to you, I'm ride or die. She would say that all the time. I broke up with her. 6 months later, she sent me an email telling me she misses me and she wants to get back together. And I'm like, wait a minute. You said you were ride or die. How are you alive? We're not riding right now. So I said to her, you're not dead. So obviously you lied. So it was a good thing I broke up with you because you're a liar. But people say this all the time. I'm a ride or die fan, and I don't understand it. Do you know the number one reason people leave jobs, people leave their marriages, people leave their relationships? The number one reason people get divorced, they did a study at the University of Stanford. And the reason is they don't feel desired. They don't feel appreciated. Hey, it's not sex. It's not money. It's not because your partner gained 100 pounds in 10 years. It's because they don't feel appreciated. Parents struggle with this when their kids leave the house. That's why parents get divorced, because their whole life was their kids, and then their kids go off, they get married, and the parents don't feel appreciated again until they have a grandkid. Thank God my parents feel appreciated. My parents should never not feel appreciated because they are saviors to my family. So my parents don't think that, but that's where people struggle. So Aaron Rodgers says he wants out of Denver, out of Green Bay. And the reason why he has said this is because Aaron Rodgers no longer feels appreciated, and I totally understand. The Arizona Cardinals went out and got a receiver for Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. The Bills went out and got Stephon Diggs for Josh Allen. The Green Bay Packers have not drafted a skill position player as a wide receiver, running back in the first round since Aaron Rodgers. And what did they do last year? They go out and they get Jordan Love out of Utah State, who didn't even play more than 10 snaps. He was terrible. He was not even third string. He was on the practice squad sometimes. He didn't even dress. So Aaron Rodgers doesn't feel appreciated, and I don't blame him. He should leave Green Bay. Enough is enough. I'm tired of other teams like the Tampa Bay, Arizona, all these teams going out and acquiring wide receivers, getting skill position players, and they don't do that for Aaron Rodgers. And they don't do that for Aaron Rodgers, so it's time to leave. And there you have it. That was the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay, we're going to bring on, she came on a couple months ago, and the fans absolutely loved her. Lindsay Bobo, thanks so much for joining the Full Monty Sports Show. How are you today?
Good. I didn't know fans love me. That just made my morning. Because I'm on the West Coast, so I woke up about an hour ago. So what a way to start my day.
Fans, people were like, she's so passionate, she's so funny, we love having her on. So thank you for getting up early. You know, normally when we have a guest on first time, we're super polite. And then the second time, it's like, you know, we've been married, we know each other, blah, blah, blah. You feel comfortable. So I have to call you out. We've all done things in our past that we look back and we say, how did I date this woman? How did I date this man? How did I keep this job? What was I thinking? I say that all the time about my exes. Lindsay, Tebow gets signed to an NFL team. Meet Tim Tebow himself. Best week of my life. If you could go back in time, okay, Back to the Future style, what would you tell your old self about this post?
Oh, so embarrassing. It's so mortifying. What's funny is when I first got involved with Broncos Twitter, I didn't realize people still liked him. I legitimately thought everybody was on the same page that he's a complete loser. At the time, I was 17. I thought he was really attractive. I had just gotten super involved in church, and, you know, he's always talking about how much he loves Jesus. And I bought into his, you know what? I'm sad when we got Peyton Manning simply because he left. But that is how much I loved him. And then eventually, then I went to the Jets, and I thought they weren't using him enough, and I was just blinded. I wasn't looking at sacks. I was just looking at the exciting, run that he had in Denver. And then, when he got released from the Jets and refused to do another position, I was like, okay, it's a little bit of a dick move. And then, the professional baseball thing, I was like, you just really like attention, don't you? And it just kind of got worse. And then when he has this big platform, and what he decided to use it for was to tell players that, to tell them college athletes don't deserve money. Yes, I grew up rich. Yes, I had a full ride. Yes, I have had every opportunity. I can play minor league baseball as a hobby. That's how rich I am. But no, college athletes that grew up with nothing, they don't deserve any payment. And I was like, oh my gosh, the signs have been there all the time. He's like, it's just about him.
No, he's an egomaniac. And again, it's like, you're in a bad relation, and then one day you just wake up and you're like, what the hell was I thinking? Look right here, you rock, Lindsay. There you go, right there. But no, seriously, like, what really drove me crazy about Tim Tebow is the fact that, again, and this has nothing to do with him, but you want to go try and play baseball, that's fine. But he's terrible. And the Mets had him not in AAA, not in they had him on their farm season with the pros this spring. And it's like, do you know how many guys who bust their ass in AAA who deserve that spot? Tim Tebow gets it, who's a career 225 hitter. It's all about show. And, we're going to talk about this later. He's now trying out for tight end. Like, have some self-awareness, dude. Like, you're never going to be a quarterback. You could have been a very good tight end, but the phoniness, the always don't tell me every day's a great day. You could be the most positive person in the world. Some days suck. And he's like, every day, God, like, he's just a phony. He's a fraud. And I'm glad you came around, because it was like abused relationship, right? You thought he was good looking, church going, and then you realize he's a fraud.
Yeah, and I have a hard time with $50,000 to talk about that he loves God. Like, that's not, that doesn't mean he's a great Christian that, deserves in the world.
Exactly. All right, let's move on. You made a mistake. You're moving forward. You're over it. All right, so let's talk about this division, because I think this is the most interesting division in the NFL. You have Patrick Mahomes. You got Justin Herbert. You got John Gruden with the Raiders. The Denver Broncos won 3 Super Bowls here, okay? They've won 3 Super Bowls, 2 with Elway, 1 with Peyton Manning. They've been a success over the last 25 years. But are you at the point now where you're like, oh, my goodness, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, is it just hoping for a wild card? Is that a success?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, George Payton's never going to say that. The team's never going to say that publicly. But it's just realistically, there's with our current quarterback situation, and I'm sure we'll touch on some potential other quarterback situations later on. It's not realistic. I think if you were to look at comparing the offensive weapons of each team, I think we're far and away. Yes, the Chiefs have Tyreek Hill, but just like our depth chart is insane right now. That even with Drew Lock, I think getting the wild card is very, very. It's not out of the realm of possibility, and I don't even know if the Chargers are going to play the way they did last year. I mean, what do you think? Do you think Justin Herbert's going to repeat what he did last year?
Well, one of the things that the Chargers did, which was amazing, is they went out and they bolstered up their offensive line to protect him. The Chargers, you look at that division and you look at the Broncos wide receivers, you look at their stable of running backs. The same thing with the Chargers, same thing with the Chiefs. They all have very good skill positions. So I think Justin Herbert will be just as good. He had a very conservative coach who's now no longer there. So I think the Chargers have improved. I think the Chiefs will be the Chiefs. I think Denver has improved. But I'm really questioning this move right here in Teddy Bridgewater. Now they signed him. They didn't give him a lot for him, so it's a no-brainer. But is this a competition now for the quarterback position?
I mean, it is. I mean, look at who was left of the veterans. Everybody was gone. Any of the people, every single. I mean, as Denver fans, when Matt Stafford went, I was like, all right, cross him off the list. When Sam Darnold went to the Panthers, cross him off. There really wasn't anybody left, so I like the move because we did get him for very cheap. With Teddy Bridgewater, people, we still don't really know because his career has been so insane. He's as a rookie how many years was he in Minnesota? He had a great rookie year. Then he got hurt. Then he went to the Saints. Comes in for Drew Brees, wins 5 in a row. Then he was a little bit hurt last year, on and off. But Teddy Bridgewater, when healthy, can be productive. Yes, but we don't have I don't know his identity as a quarterback because I haven't seen enough. I've seen flashes, but I really, besides his rookie season, haven't seen him at full capacity. So I really think the Broncos want it to be Drew Lock. It makes more sense to have it be Drew Lock. I do think it'll be a competition. However, if you put a gun to my head, I think there will be a different quarterback playing this season.
I think so too. And people are asking me, is that a bottle of Patron in your background?
Oh, shit. Oh, sorry. Crazy. I actually don't drink, but this is my brother's room. Because the lighting in my room's bad. Last time I had the internet issues. So my brother's room's downstairs and it's closer to our router. I didn't even notice.
I don't listen. If we could get Patron as a sponsor, I'm all for it. So thank you for doing that. All right, let's move to the draft. Here we go. You got Patrick Surtain. Listen, I like this pick, and here's why. Like we said, if you're going to go up against Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes, you need a pass rusher and you need a defensive back. Were you high on this pick? Did you know a lot about him? Talk about what your thought was when they drafted him.
So take out just skill-wise for a second. The 6 hours before this pick, there was all the Aaron Rodgers talk. So before that, people were getting excited about the potential for Justin Fields. And then there's Aaron Rodgers. So we're getting so wound up. We're so excited. We're so ready for this sexy pick. And when they called his name out, my immediate response was bummed. And it had nothing to do with him as a player. It's just we had gotten so excited about this big splash that was going to happen. And then they called him and it was like, what? It felt like when you blow up a balloon and then you slowly let the air out. That's kind of what it was. And then eventually, you actually think about the pick and exactly what you said. It's a phenomenal pick. I think I didn't really see him on anyone's mock draft, especially because we had signed Darby and Fuller in this offseason.
Right. Yeah, that's what shocked me because Denver, I think they were almost shocked that they got him, and you saw the war room, which I don't even like that they call it the war room before. I've been talking about that for 20 years. But you saw them all high-fiving and super excited when they announced the pick. So I think they were shocked he was still available.
Oh, yes. And you remember Denver's second, it was just depleted by the end of the season. Absolutely depleted. So I'm sure he took that into account too. I mean, there were some games that were so close. I mean, our very last game of the season, we only lost by 1. And imagine if we weren't playing 6-string quarterbacks at the time.
Yes. Yeah.
So that had to do a lot with it. But it was a very surprising pick. My 3 I thought it was going to be was Fields, Parsons, or Slater.
Right. Yeah. Listen, I thought maybe go offensive line there. But again, when you're going against these guys, you need a pass rusher. You need defensive backs. Okay, look, Aaron Rodgers has said he wants to go to the Las Vegas Raiders. I keep calling them Oakland, the Las Vegas Raiders. He wants to go to the Broncos, or he wants to go to San Francisco. The only way San Francisco will do it is if they give up Trey Lance, their rookie quarterback that they picked 3rd. I don't think they're going to do that. What's the talk in Denver about this happening right here?
Oh, I mean, that's all we can think of. That's all we're talking about. That's all we're dreaming about. I made a vision board at the beginning of the year. I'm like, all of it, none of it has to happen. Let me just put a big picture of Aaron Rodgers right in the middle. No, we're all in. We are. And I keep talking myself into it, but then trying to talk myself out of it because I don't want to get my hopes up. But I never really thought we'd get Deshaun Watson. I'm really starting to believe we're going to get Aaron Rodgers. And the bummer about it is if it doesn't happen, it just is going to feel like a bummer. I feel there's going to be this big cloud of sadness over the season because we're going to think, well, imagine what Aaron Rodgers could have done in this situation.
Yeah, but you know what? Greg brings up a good point here. Nothing can happen with Rodgers until June 1st. Yes. So let's not, listen, you're not getting overexcited because he says these are the 3 teams, and I talked about, I'll never forget this time. I was working with this woman, and her boyfriend would break up with her, and then twice a year to go on a Vegas trip. Then he would come back, and it was like, and then they get back together. I'm like, you do realize that he's breaking up with you because he's hooking up in Vegas. She's like, I know. I was like, why do you keep taking back? And this is my point with Rodgers. He no longer wants the Packers. He's just not into them anymore. So I have all these Green Bay fans that we got to keep him. No, move him. And I'm not a ride or die fan. So if the Packers leave, if Rodgers leaves, I'm replacing that helmet. I'm replacing that back there because I'm an Aaron Rodgers guy. But you're not over exaggerating, and the hype is real because those are one of the 3 teams. I'm going to throw. If I'm San Francisco, I give up Trey Lance. I give up some of my defensive players. I give up the world for him. What is it going to take for them to trade? And what are you willing to give up?
My firstborn. Whatever he wants. I think that we'd be willing to give up anything. I would be heartbroken if Von Miller was in that. I hope I hope he would be completely off limits. That's what's crazy is the conversation has just been about Aaron Rodgers, but I really haven't seen any tweets about what they think, like who they think we should give it. There's been a lot of draft picks, but nobody's really talked about which players we'd be willing to let go. I keep seeing Teddy Bridgewater. I'm like, I don't know why the Packers want him, but I'd take anything. Even if I would be heartbroken, Von Miller is the last person I'd want. But if they want him,
yeah. But you know what? If you get Aaron Rodgers, you're winning 11 games minimum for the next 3 years, and you have someone who could outgun Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and
you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I don't see Aaron Rodgers wanting to go to Vegas, especially now that he's engaged to Shailene Woodley. I don't know how familiar you are with her, but she's very laid back, very not into the Hollywood life, doesn't really like attention. She's not moving to Vegas. It's not. I don't see that happening.
Okay, so going back to mistakes you made in the past, mistakes we made, if Aaron Rodgers comes to Denver, does your crush go from Trevor Siemian to Aaron Rodgers? Does that happen?
He's not my type. I have a special place for Trevor Siemian because I liked him before he was the starter, and the fact that he even started is still hilarious. But he was Peyton Manning's replacement. Let that sink in. That's so absurd. So I just will always have a special place in my heart for him. I like Aaron Rodgers because he's smart. I became an Aaron Rodgers fan. I think it was 2 years ago when the whole, the kneeling for the anthem was at its peak, and Trump was saying all these sons of bitch, whatever. And Aaron Rodgers posted a photo, zoomed back, and it showed the cameramen on their knees taking photos during the national anthem. And I think he put, I hope these photographers don't, get all this flack. And I thought, okay, Aaron, you won me over. I love that. I love him. Peyton Manning has some personality traits that I don't care for. I love him as a quarterback, but I don't idolize him, but I love Aaron Rodgers. I love what he's about.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, to me, when he said, and again, not to get too political, but this is not a political statement, when he said about Colin Kaepernick kneeling, he goes, it's never been about disrespecting the police. It's never been about disrespecting the troops. It's never been about disrespecting the flag. Not then, not now, not ever. And that was his statement. Like, you guys are being so ridiculous. All right, so let's move back. So Aaron Rodgers will know in the next 3 weeks. We'll probably realize, a week before June, the end of May. So I want to talk about this because the only thing, I thought Denver did a good job in the draft. The only thing I don't understand is the Javonte Williams pick, the running back. Because to me, they have a plethora of wide receivers. They have a stable of running backs. Even if Lindsey's not there, you still got Gordon. You still got Freeman. You have a third stringer who played last year. So were you shocked that they picked him as a running back when I thought they'd go offensive line there?
Yes, I was. And I totally forgot that we signed Mike Boone. Somebody tweeted it after he was picked. Completely had forgotten about that sign. So there's the conspiracy theorist in me thinks that it was, I think he's really good, but I also think it's George Payton showing Aaron Rodgers, we want to give you as many weapons as possible.
Right.
I really believe that it was more of a showman pick than necessarily, obviously not a need pick. So that, again, there's not really any evidence to back that up, but that's a guess I would make. The other thing is I actually just thought about this morning, and I talked to my friend about it before I came on. So the very last game of the season, Melvin Gordon was like 120 yards away from 1,000 yards, somewhere in that ballpark. And we were down by 1, and we had the ball, and there was, 30 seconds left. And instead of running out of bounds, he tried to stay in because at that point he was 9 or 10 yards away. And they obviously end up tackling him. The clock runs out. The game ends. So I do think, and if you remember, he also had the DUI, which he ended up not being suspended after all. But I don't see him staying after his contract's up.
Right, and if you remember, the last 2 years with the Chargers, he was playing with injuries. They were playing Austin Eckler. So it's kind of like when he left, I wasn't shocked when he left at all.
No. I was shocked when we signed him for as much as we did. I was shocked.
Yeah, no, I'm shocked.
Yeah, but if you look at Javonte Williams, last year he averaged 7.3 carries, 7.3 yards a game. If you watch, nobody could tackle him. Philip Lindsay would kind of hit a brick wall. He was great, and I'm wearing my Lindsay jersey right now. But Javonte Williams is just on a whole nother level. Lindsay couldn't really catch. Williams could. So I think he's the future, and I think I was very surprised that we also traded up, too, to get him.
Yeah, that was so shocking. But again, if you're going to try to go after Aaron Rodgers now, why did Rodgers get so upset in Green Bay? You look at Tampa Bay, they signed Antonio Brown, Rob Gronkowski. I mentioned this earlier. Kyler Murray, they go out and get Deshaun, what the hell, whatever. They go out and get a wide receiver. Josh Allen, they go out and they get Stephon Diggs. So, if you're looking at all these people, all these quarterbacks who are now getting, number one wide receivers that they either trade for, what have the Packers done? They drafted a quarterback last year who wasn't even third string.
No.
So if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I get the hell out of Dodge. All right. So,
especially, like I said, I hope this isn't too vulgar. I explained that the Broncos' offensive depth chart right now is every quarterback's wet dream. And, like, we have the cap space. And, like I said, Shailene Woodley, I've actually been told she lives in Boulder right now. So it's not like this would be a crazy move for her. So to me, it just seems too perfect for him.
No, it really does. And I think that, and one of the reasons why I say this, if you look at the Broncos, they are so deep in wide receiver and running backs. I like their tight end. So who going into this season with your vision board, who's the number one wide receiver? Who's the number one running back?
So it'll be really interesting because we didn't get to see Judy and Sutton play at the same time. I think Judy still has a little bit more to learn. Last year he had so many drops. I don't think that will be nearly as big of an issue, but I do think Sutton will be number one. Judy will be number two, but it'll be very close. And I think, you know what? Let's go for it. I'm going to say by the end of the season, Williams will be the number one running back. But I do think Gordon and him will have the relationship that Lindsay and Gordon had. But I'm going to say Williams has a better year. I'm going for it.
Would you be shocked if Sutton becomes the number one wide receiver? Because a lot of people were shocked at his production. I wasn't. I think he has all the skills.
Oh, not at all. Yeah. Like I said, I'm saying Sutton 1, Judy 2. Sutton hasn't given me really any reasons to worry. He's still young, so even though he tore his ACL, it's not like he's a 33-year-old. It's going to take a little bit longer. Right now, everything I'm reading is that he's healing super quick. So, yeah, I think Sutton's going to have a phenomenal year, especially if somebody else is at quarterback.
Yeah, and listen, 100%. Rodgers to Denver is a bigger move than Peyton Manning because when Peyton Manning, he was coming off an injury. Rodgers is healthy. Rodgers is still in his prime. You agree with that. As happy as you were for Peyton Manning, this is a bigger move, right?
Well, and Peyton Manning had been released. So the fact that we'd be looking at trade I think is a way bigger deal than just signing a free agent.
Okay, so let's talk about your head coach. A few years in now, talk about the positives he has, talk about the negatives. I'm always weary of a defensive-minded coach, on 3rd and like 14. For example, you see Drew Brees on 3rd and 12, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers. They throw the ball 12 yards, whereas a defensive-minded coach gives up. I've seen them with the Jets for years. 3rd down and 12, they run a draw. My brother Pete screams out 10 times a game watching just punt the ball on 3rd down. Just if you're not going to go for it. So are you concerned if Rodgers does come with all the weapons, you will still have a conservative coach, or Rodgers will change that mentality?
Oh, Rodgers will change that mentality. Vic Fangio knows he's on the hot seat. I think he will do whatever it takes to keep his job. It's not like Aaron Rodgers. He knows Aaron Rodgers knows what he's talking about. It's not like he's a rookie. He's been here forever. So I think he fully lets Aaron Rodgers do what he wants. If you remember, and I don't remember all the details, so maybe fill it in for me. When they lost in the playoffs last year, it was because of a conservative call and decided not to go for the touchdown.
Yes.
So
they went for the field goal.
Yes.
The Packers went for the field goal. And my whole thought is you have the best player in the world. Put the ball in Aaron Rodgers' hand. And then my other thought was we saw a lot of drops with the 2nd and 3rd wide receiver against Tampa Bay, where Tom Brady would go to Antonio Brown, Godwin, Evans. Whoever Brady threw to caught the ball. That's what I think Rodgers pissed him off the most, because you could have drafted a wide receiver last year in the 1st round, and you get Jordan Love, who didn't help you at all this year. So, I agree with that. Very conservative call. Great call from an offensive-minded coach in Matt LaFleur.
Yeah. So I think they tell – I think that's part of the appeal, right, is to say, we will let you do whatever you want. Tell us what you want, and we will let you do it.
And that's the thing, too. Brady left Tampa Bay, and when he goes to Tampa Bay, they say, what do you need? And he says, sign Antonio Brown, which no one wanted him. Sign Gronk, who was in retirement. Brady got what he wanted. Then they got Leonard Fournette. Everything went through Tom Brady. And as the quarterback, you got to have input on who you want. That's why Houston, Deshaun Watson is like, I'm done with you. You don't even ask me for my opinion. And one of the reasons why my brother was just talking about how Devontae Smith didn't go to the Dolphins, how they took the other wide receiver from Alabama. I think they asked Tua, who played for Alabama, who would you rather throw to? And that's why they drafted him. So I think Aaron Rodgers will have a ton of input. We're talking with Lindsay Bobo here live on the Full Monty Sports Show. We're going to get Brad Ward here on in about a minute. Lindsay, we got about a minute left. What is the over-under for wins for the Broncos? Let's say without Rodgers, I'm going to say 8 games. With Rodgers, 11 or more. What are you saying? 11 or more wins. Remember, they're playing 17 games this year.
Yeah. Oh, good point. I'm gonna say Broncos. So wait, is it? Oh, would I say over or under 8?
Over, yeah. With I think they go 9-8 or 8-9 without Rodgers.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say 9-8. When
Okay.
it might be different. I don't have the exact schedule like in my mind, but I think Andrew Lock could go 9-8.
And with Rodgers, 12-5. Yeah,
12. I think he's beating the Raiders. I think he's beating the Chargers, so that's already 4.
Right.
And maybe the Chiefs, it's 1-1.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I hope. I'm just going to say this out now. I am a huge Rodgers fan.
Yeah.
So if Rodgers goes to Denver, I may dedicate the first part of my show every Sunday, the half-hour Rodgers hour. Just talk about Aaron Rodgers and the Denver Broncos. So you'll be like a co-host because I'll have Aaron Rodgers talk all the time.
I love it. Yeah. No, my birthday's in May, and I actually I quit drinking it 2 years ago on June 1st. So I'm like, is this my present?
That's a great. When is your birthday, by the way?
May 14th. So I'm like, this is gonna be a great couple of weeks.
Listen, May 14th. I'm going to get you the same thing I got you last year, except a different color, because I know how much you liked it. So that's what I'm giving you for your birthday. The same thing I got you last year, which was nothing.
Perfect.
All right, Lindsay, final question. Listen, he should have done this 10 years ago. Tim Tebow worked out. I just found out he lives right next door to Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer bought a house next to Tim Tebow. Are we going to see him in a Jacksonville Jaguar uniform this year?
I think so. I mean, Urban Meyer to me is as phony as Tim Tebow is. Like, Tim Tebow gets paid $50,000 to talk about that. Urban Meyer turns a blind eye every time one of his players beats the crap out of their girlfriend.
Or his assistant coach who used to beat his wife all the time. Urban Meyer looked the other way. 100%, Lindsay. 100%. The two biggest frauds in the NFL right now. And that's saying a lot.
How does Urban Meyer tell him no? I think it's stupid. I think it's not fair. Am I surprised if he doesn't? No, but how's Urban Meyer going to tell him no? Which is so lame. So lame.
They're best friends. They live right next to each other in Jacksonville.
That makes sense.
Yeah. All right, Lindsay, love having you on. Happy birthday. Thank you for getting up early. Appreciate the Broncos hat, the Broncos shirt. So when Aaron Rodgers gets signed, how quick are you ordering the Aaron Rodgers jersey?
Oh, immediately. You know what's crazy? Quick story is one of my friends went on Fanatics and tried to make a custom one with the name Rodgers, and it wouldn't let him.
They wouldn't let it. Yeah, they wouldn't let it. Until it's official, they don't allow it. Lindsay, how can we follow you? How can we support what you're doing?
So you can follow me on Twitter at Lindsay, LINDSAY, Bebo, BEBOUT. And then you can also follow Broncos Brawl and subscribe to Broncos Brawl. However, I got to say, Broncos Brawl is now dead. I'm working on a new show, but it's still a work in progress, but it will still be through those accounts. So go ahead and follow it. And then once we get the new show rolling, you'll already be subscribed.
All right, Lindsay, we'll definitely follow you, support you. Put anything you want on my Twitter page, and I will retweet you. And by the way, you are the worst at checking DMs, by the the worst.
I'm trying to get better. I'm so bad at it. But I adore you. I have so much fun talking to you, so I promise I'll do better.
I sent Lindsay a DM on last Sunday. Hey, you want to come on the show? She didn't respond till Wednesday. She's like, I don't check DMs. So I was like, okay. I
will never say no to you, ever.
All right. Thanks so much. Love having you on. We'll see you down the road. Take care. That was Lindsay Bobo. Does a tremendous job of covering the Broncos. She's so funny. So funny. All right. When we come back, Brad Ward is going to tell us everything we need to know about Cleveland sports. You're watching the full Monte Sports Show live on YouTube.
The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports Store is officially open. Log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com. Get yours today.
All right, let's bring on Brad Ward. Brad, thanks so much for joining the Full Monty Sports Show. We're in a little late with Lindsay. Thank you so much for holding on. You have to be the happiest Cleveland Brown fan in the world right now because it's almost like everything they're doing turns to gold right now.
It really is, isn't it? It's become very, what an offseason, They had to remake the defense, and they've done that and some, Monty. It's been pretty spectacular, to be honest.
Yeah, listen, I lived in Cleveland. I lived in Westlake, right by Cleveland. Loved the atmosphere there. Was so glad that they actually had the draft there. The atmosphere was amazing. All right, but before we get to all that stuff, I want to just touch a little bit on Cleveland sports, other teams. I want to talk about Kevin Love. A lot of people saw what he did where he inbounded the pass. He was frustrated at a call, gave it up. Listen, I love what Kevin Love has done off the court. He when COVID hit, he helped pay the workers. He won a championship. A lot of people try to minimize it. He was the third option. And I say this all the time. No disrespect to Kevin Love. But how many people in the NBA would be a number 2 option behind LeBron, behind Kyrie? He was a third option. He accepted the role. But his time in Cleveland has got to be done, right?
Okay. The whole batting the ball incident, right, has been totally overblown, right? Like that's he was frustrated. He's been in this rebuild for years. He probably should have been traded years ago. But let's be real. Like that one incident is very minor in some of the offenses that we see teams overlook across the NBA. Guys are getting stopped with drugs, and there's all kinds of
100% correct.
This is totally dumb. This is to say that you're going to issue him his pink slip because he got frustrated at the end of a meaningless game in the regular season and batted the ball in is silly. He's put in hard work for this team. He's been great to the city. I'm not going to push him out of the city because of that. Now, if I were Kobe Altman, would I have traded him off? Does it make sense to hold on to him while they're trying to do this rebuild? Not really. I don't know why he's lingering on. But that has nothing to do with hitting the ball out of frustration.
Okay. But my whole point is that was kind of like the nail in the coffin, so to speak, because he's the last guy it was Tristan Thompson and him. He's the last guy who won a title. And if you're trying to rebuild with young players, it's time to move off of Kevin Love, and it has nothing to do with – I love Kevin Love as a basketball player. He's a double-double machine, or he was. And like I said, it was his defense at the end of the game where Tyronn Lue left him in, and they switched off on Steph Curry, and he beat him up for one play and helped them win the championship. So Kevin Love is a valuable player. Is there any value for him trading him right now? Can you get something for him?
I don't know. Probably not very much because the contract is not terrific, right? It's going to be a lot of money. But you got to think like a contending team that needs a shooter as a stretch four would give up something for him. Obviously not now, but in the offseason, if you expect to be a contender, Brooklyn, they took on Blake Griffin. I think Kevin Love better than Blake Griffin at this point when he's healthy, right? I don't know. He can still shoot it. He can still be productive for somebody.
He can still rebound. He's probably one of the best outlet passes off a rebound in the history of the game. So he can still be productive. But let's talk about, this young influx of talent. You have Colin Sexton averaging 24, Darius Garland averaging 17, and I love the Jared Allen pick. 14 points, 9 rebounds. Can you build with the core 3 of those 3 players, or are they just not good enough?
No, I think you could build with them, but you need another. Those 3 aren't going to be enough. You need to hit. They still need to hit big in the draft, right? Like, those are great players. Garland, there's a lot of question marks around him coming into this year, but he's played really well, right? He's been really impressive. When Sexton especially has been off the floor, he's been scoring, passing the ball better. The talent is showing very much with him.
Brad, can I just interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Is the problem that both, I think, Sexton and Garland are score first as your 2 guards? Is it more they're playing point guards, but they're really both 2 guards at their best?
maybe that you could contend that. Certainly it's not ideal, right? Like what, when they brought them together, the comparison was always like, okay, this is going to be the next Dame and CJ, right? Or the two guards, but they're not Dame and CJ. They're very different guards than those guys. It's like Dame and Dame, right?
Right.
It's not Dame and CJ. So, in my opinion, they need another piece. I think they can be successful with both of them, but you got to, maybe take the ball out of Garland's hands some, or take the ball out of Sexton's hands some, and make him actually play two guard and not dominate the ball so much. Because the complaint is, and it just came out today, is that teammates are actually complaining that Sexton dominates the ball so much that they're actually like getting mocked by other teams and stuff like during the game. Like, he's not going to pass you the ball and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know what they do with those two, but this draft will be huge. Would it
ideally you want a small forward, right? In the draft, like perfect situation.
Small forward, power forward, even if Love moves on, like a stretch four would be fine. Just somebody that's, in that 6'7" to 6'10" range that can threaten you from the wing. And if you wanted to go up and get like the best guy you possibly could, I would be totally okay with trading like Garland to go get an elite player from somebody else. Like, you need to add wing players on this team. They're
I agree with that. Players. Yeah, great point. All right, let's move to the Cleveland Indians. As of last night, around 500. What do you like? What do you don't like? And I got to be honest with you. Everywhere this guy's wins, but he's starting to get a lot of criticism. Are you a fan of him as a manager?
Oh, I love him. How can you not love him? He's my favorite, man. He's probably been my favorite. He's one of my favorite coach managers in Cleveland ever. Like, I love Tito so much. He is the best. I know he's getting a lot of criticism, but I don't understand what the criticism's for. The payroll is $49 million, Monty.
It's ridiculous. In the Major League Baseball, where everyone spends
dollars. It's absurd. They were at 195 to 100 for the last, from 2010 till now, and they cut the payroll down to 49. They traded away Bauer, Clevenger, Kluber, Frankie Lindor, Carrasco, Santana, all gone, right? They're playing with nobodies, right? They have two hitters in their lineup that people have probably ever heard of before, in Rosario and Ramirez. Franmil Reyes is coming along okay. Jordan Luplow is having the best start to any season he ever had, but that won't last. We know what Jordan Luplow is in the end. But really, Terry is the kind of manager that they are just a grinded out team. Like, their pitching is still okay. Even getting rid of all those pitchers, they still have Bieber, Savale. They still have a young, good pitching core somehow. And they'll win a number of games, 4-3, 3-2, and hang around 500 and try to get in the playoffs. They've been in the playoffs every year for like the last 6 years. So
listen, he won 100 games there, won 90 games there. Are you shocked that once they cut the payroll, because Terry Francona, everywhere he goes, he wins? Are you shocked that he's like, you know what, maybe my time in Cleveland is gone? Because when on the outside looking in, it almost looks like he loves Cleveland and they love him, even though he's getting some criticism. He's perfect for Cleveland. I think Ed Orgeron is perfect for LSU. Great example there. Okay, I think Francona is everything right about Cleveland.
He is. Yeah, he is. And he loves the front office, and they're very close. And he, if you ask him any time about his time with the Indians, he will glowingly speak about his relationship with Chris Antonetti and Chernoff and all those guys in the front office. He thinks very highly of what they do, and for a mid-market team, they've done pretty well. They've been able to be in the playoffs, spending about half as much as those major teams every year. So they're a pretty good organization. They're probably, until the Browns recently, they were probably the best run organization in the town for a long time.
No, they're very well run. But my question is, have you seen any chinks in the armor that he's getting frustrated? Because, like you said, less than $50 million on a payroll. That's even if you have a great relationship. When your owner doesn't spend, it's got to be frustrating.
Oh, it's got to be incredibly frustrating, especially to see all that talent walk out the door. But the thing about him is, I don't think it's not frustration. For him, he's just a baseball guy. Like, he just loves being at the yard, drives around in his drives his scooter to the yard, and right downtown Cleveland, right to Scooter Inn. It's pretty crazy, like, the whole scene, right into the dugout. And he just loves being baseball, around a game and in the yard every day. But the problem with him is, Monty, more than anything, not so much frustration, is that his health is wearing down.
Right.
And is deteriorating. And it's like you can put up with that and take breaks in the season when you're like competing for a World Series. But when that goes away, how much are you going to put up with the health issues anymore?
Yeah, listen, we talked about it with the Yankees manager. He had a heart issue, and the doctor said he just needs to avoid stress. How the hell are you going to avoid stress being the Yankees manager? I mean, that's
Truly.
Impossible. So,
Truly.
I mean, same thing. And losing causes more stress, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No question. I mean, and this is a guy that lives it. So he's up every night thinking about it and pondering over every single move that he makes. So he takes it. He's always stressed. He's always had this issue. The stress just weighs on him incredibly. And when you're spending $49 million, you got to think at some point, what am I stressing about here? If they're not going to put anything into this, then why am I killing myself over it, right?
100% right. Listen, I'm just going to take like a 10-second quick pause here for George Lopez. Again, we're raising money for George Lopez's son. George is a guest on here. We're doing a charity work. Right there is his Venmo account. His son got invited, talking about baseball, to go to this prestigious camp for a week. It's in Arizona.
My name is Christian Lopez. Most of you know my dad, George Lopez. I want to thank everyone at the Full Monte Sports Show for donating to help me go to a showcase this summer in Arizona. Really appreciate all the help and support I got from you guys. Thank you very much.
If you could donate any amount of money, I'm doing it every 2 weeks. I get paid. I'm sending George money. It's very expensive for him to send his son to this thing. Every little bit helps. Go to George's Venmo account, and you can donate at George Lopez /3771. George /Lopez at 3771. All right, Brad, let's get back to it. Want to talk about, before we get into the draft and how great Cleveland is looking, I just want you to give us because like I said, I spent a lot of time in Cleveland. I spent a lot of time in the flats. I absolutely love the way they did the draft. Talk about what it meant to the city and how electric it was to have the draft in Cleveland.
You know what? It was awesome. I loved every minute of it. I thought they did it right. It was really well done. This is, if you think about it, Monty, this has really been the first sporting event where we've seen this kind of a crowd since the pandemic. COVID. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and they did it right, and everybody was vaccinated, and everything was cool, and but it was a lot of fun, and it rained all day on Thursday, but it didn't, It was awesome. The house band was up there. I don't know what you
Kings
watched.
Kings of Leon was doing a good job for a while.
Which broadcast you watched, but
right.
NFL, I won't watch ESPN, but NFL Networks was pretty good, and we had a lot of local people doing a broadcast stuff here around here too. So, but it was awesome, man. It was cool, and it seemed like everybody had a really good time, and Cleveland showed itself well again, and it's the Cleveland Sports Commission does a really good job getting these events here. And they've done a good job with that, getting the draft here, getting the the Republican convention here, and all that stuff. So
yeah, they do a great job with that. And one of they kept saying on the network, everyone here has been vaccinated, and I love that they brought up one fan every time to sit on stage because listen, if you're going to the draft, you're a little crazy, and I mean that in a good way for your team. So imagine being up there when they announced, the Jets select Zach Wilson. Like, I was on stage. That's a great moment. So I think they did. Cleveland, I say this all the time, downtown, the restaurants, the bar, it's perfect for any type of event, right?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many different locations, and they really had stages all over the place, right? You just saw the main one on TV, but if you saw the whole layout, they had the whole inside of the stadium was kids, kick it through the field goal. They had all these different things for kids in there. The whole draft experience was all over the place in Cleveland. There was 5 different stages. They did it really big, and you could even go you could get tickets not even during the draft, during the day, 4 to 7, and just take your family and do all the activities and stuff.
Yeah, no, it was great. The first night, 30 million fans watched it, so it was obviously a success. Speaking of success, before we get into the what you did in the draft, I've said this. There are two teams that I think improved the most before the draft, and that is the Chargers and the Browns. I think the Browns have hit a home run. Talk to the fans. Tell us the offseason moves they've done before the draft.
Yeah, man, Andrew Berry has been knocking it out of the park. Seriously, youngest GM in football. But those guys, him and Paul DePodesta together, they're kind of seeing eye to eye on everything along with Stefanski. And, going into free agency, they addressed offense last year with Hooper and Conklin and those guys. And then they came this year and they needed a defensive overhaul, right? So when everybody's overpaying for all these edges, they go out and get their guy, John Johnson III from the Rams, who is an absolute beast, probably the best safety available. Follow that up with his running mate, Troy Hill, and I have a good story about that in a second here, but Troy Hill, cornerback from the Rams. So right there, they take 2/5 of the best pass defense in the NFL right there away from their pass defense to the Browns. They signed Takk McKinley, who is a first-round talent. Has been digged up, but he's an edge specialist on the cheap. They get Anthony Walker, middle linebacker from Indy. They get Malik Jackson, defensive tackle from the Eagles, who's been very good. And then, of course, most recently, Jadeveon Clowney to kind of tie it all together. After a 2.5 year courtship with him, they finally land him. I think they've been envisioning him opposite Myles Garrett for some time now.
Listen, if I'm going to give you the over-under just on those two, 22 sacks, is that crazy?
No, I don't think it's crazy. Here's the thing with Clowney, he doesn't put up the sack numbers, or he hasn't for some years now, but his disruption is still there. So you put on the tape, and his disruption is still there every play. Last year was a rough year for him with the injuries and everything, but you got to correlate that with not being in camp.
Of course.
You don't show up to camp and you only play 10 games, of course. So the Browns did a good job signing him early. He'll be in camp. He'll be a part of all of this virtual stuff. He'll be healthy. He'll be ready to go. Hopefully he can stay healthy. His knees are a concern. But when you line him up with Garrett across the distance, imagine those two getting off the bus, right? Those are the two biggest, freakiest dudes in the league, right? Garrett and Clowney. And when I think about Clowney and why I think they thought it was such a good fit, is it's not so much like the straightaway sacks that Garrett can get, or Takk McKinley can tee off on a 3rd and long and get after the quarterback. It's more so think about the quarterbacks you have to face in the AFC, right? Lamar Jackson, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, all mobile guys that are going to run around. Justin Herbert, guys that are going to run around and make plays and create. Well, that's what you want Clowney for, right?
Of course.
Contain the quarterback, set the edge, keep him in the pocket, and run that guy down, that athleticism, and run that guy down. And I think that's where he's an asset, is against those mobile quarterbacks.
So, Brad, what I try to do during the week is from 9 to 12, I usually listen to comedy stuff, progressive stuff, because I'm a progressive. And then from 12 to 3, I try to listen to shows all across the country. One of my favorites is I'll listen to shows, podcasts that my friends have, you guys have, whatever. But I'll listen to shows in Denver when they talked about Aaron Rodgers. I'll listen to shows in Cleveland. And what shocked me the most is when they're talking about the draft. To me, this was a no-brainer. But all over Cleveland, they're saying, we needed this, we needed that. And then I think you tweeted, how can you not see that you needed a defensive back? To me, it was the best and most obvious pick. Why were people thinking that this was not the pick to go before they got him? And what do you think about Newsome with the 26th pick? Because I'm listening to the radio, and I'm like, are you guys crazy? You needed safety help. You got it. You got Jadeveon Clowney. You need a defensive back.
Yeah, I didn't understand that either. That was the narrative, okay, Barry's done. I think they just wanted to be able to say that, Barry's knocked out everything in free agency, right? They can take best player available. And I'm going, no way, dude.
No, yes.
Greedy Williams did not play a down last year. He has nerve damage. You can barely pencil him in as your starter opposite Denzel Ward. And after that, You have Troy Hill to start in the slot now, which is a huge upgrade. But after that, there's no depth. There's nobody there. It's MJ Stewart. It's a bunch of no names. It's all the guys that got pushed into action at the end of the year last year and put them in jeopardy. You have to take corners. And I think taking Newsome at the top of the draft, he's the last guy I consider in that top tier. He's an incredible athlete, incredible confidence. He thought he should have been the first overall pick in the draft, he said. I mean, I love that, though, right?
But wait, so you agreed with me going into this draft, it had to be Newsome, right?
It had to be a corner. It had to be a corner. Like, okay. If it was Newsome, I'm glad it was Newsome because to me he was the last guy in that top tier, right? There was 4 guys in that top tier, and there was a little bit of a drop off before like Stokes and Campbell and the Georgia corners, right? And those guys. But that he was the last guy that I would consider in that top tier. He totally justified at 26 as a steal, I think. His athleticism is great. He's got probably the best feet out of all 4 corners in that top tier. His feet are incredible. Great hips. I mean, he's got all the tools to be a really, really good one.
Okay, now I'm going to say this, and I already hear Greg through the chat. This was the best pick. May not be overall, but Jeremiah Owusu-Karamoah, linebacker from Notre Dame. When you guys got this, I'm like, the Browns are on another level right now. I mean, this guy could be 100-tackle guy. I mean, how good is this defense right now?
It's incredible. Like if you would have told me they would have come away with Newsome and JOK, I would have been like, what happened? Did they trade all their picks to get back in the first round? Like, how is that possible? They didn't have to move up.
They didn't have to move up for this pick.
They moved up 7 picks, right? So they moved up.
I'm talking about Newsome. Newsome they got, and then they moved up for him. But I thought Jeremiah would be a late first round pick, right? Didn't you?
I did. I know Cleveland loved him. I thought that he would be middle first round. There was some concern if he would even be there at 26, right? Right. For people that wanted linebacker. And he's not even really just a linebacker. I mean, he can do everything, right? Like this, you put on the tape, this guy's incredible. The speed, the athleticism. He'll be there, right?
I watched the tape. I watched the highlight of it. The way he's a ball hawk, always trying to strip. I mean, you saw it against Clemson. I mean, this guy's a playmaker, and he went 52. What were GMs missing?
So here's what it is, right? And I wrote an article on this in my Instant React piece, and I think this is really what it is. It's they look at this guy. So if he wants to play linebacker in the NFL, and I think that's how the Browns will use him. But the Browns have their scheme. They want to run. Joe Woods wants to put a ton of defensive backs on the field. He wants as much versatility as he can. He wants to modernize this defense with speed everywhere, right? And JOK will immediately be the smallest linebacker in the NFL when you put him out there, right, at linebacker. But who cares? The guy can still tackle. The guy can do everything. All these other teams probably looked at that and said, how am I going to use him? Am I going to use him as a linebacker? Am I going to play him as safety? Am I going to use him as a nickel corner, make him lose a few pounds? Because he played over 100 snaps guarding the slot in college. He can do it all, right? He can cover corners. He can cover tight ends. So he can do all these things. And these teams are like, I don't really know how I want to use him. Well, the Browns knew how they wanted to use him from day one. And that's why they swooped him up. And they wanted him. I asked a guy, Charlie Campbell of Walter Football, before day 2 started. And I had sent him, he came on my show and I had sent him an All Eyes on Cleveland t-shirt. And I said, you get the t-shirt. And I said, you got anything for me on day 2? And he said, I know the Browns love JOK. I said they may come up and try to get him. And so I tweeted it out right away. I was like, if the Browns were so inclined after about 10 picks, they could come up and get JOK, and damned if they did. Incredible first 2 rounds.
Listen, I'm going to say this, and this is kind of an older reference, but an undersized linebacker named Sam Mills, who played at Montclair State, my alma mater, went to the Saints, went to Carolina. Sam Mills was an absolute stud. 5-time Pro Bowl player. So when you talk about size, Zach Thomas of the Miami Dolphins was a tackling machine for 7 years. Like, I just want someone, especially now in the NFL, going sideline to sideline, making plays, creating plays. So I think this was an absolute steal. Can you see him being a tackling machine? Because let's say the guys up front do their jobs. he's going to have free reign to make the play, right?
No question. Yeah, no question. I think a lot of times, too, they'll use him as like that. So they'll have the Browns are going to use a lot of that like Viper or Rover position,
right?
Which is a safety / linebacker. So he fits perfect into that, right? Like a guy that can creep in the box. He'll guard your best tight end, the Kelseys of the world, the guys like that, right? And he can do that. We've seen all the tape. He can cover just as well as a lot of corners can. And he can, the next play, he can come off the edge and rush your quarterback or disrupt a run play. So he's a maniac, and he shot out of a missile so fast. Just an incredible asset. They almost got a cheaper version of him later in the draft in Tony Fields, who is another small linebacker just with elite speed. So you can see what they're going for. They want to add speed everywhere.
Listen, I remember when Jimmy Johnson did this with the Cowboys. He just got speed. He didn't care if guys were undersized. He just wanted guys going sideline to sideline. So the big question here is, when you're picking at 52, are you like, we're getting him, no doubt? Or were you like, oh, they might go somewhere else?
Oh, no. As soon as they traded up, I was like, they got to be taking him. I know they loved him. I know they liked him. The Browns don't value that off-ball linebacker position very much, but I think they viewed him as more than that, right? Like, you got to be really special for them to come up and use like an asset on somebody like that, but they viewed him as more than just a linebacker, right? To ignore the letters in front of his name and just say he's a hell of a football player, go get him at 52.
Listen, people are talking about this in the comments, guys. We're prepared on this show. Brad knew I was going to ask this question. What are we doing with Odell Beckham Jr.? Last year, Landry led the team with 72 catches. I thought Austin Hooper, finally got comfortable with. It takes a while to get chemistry. Are we trading Odell Beckham Jr.? They are a run-dominant team. I thought some of their young guys really played well last year. When he went down, what are we doing?
You're bringing him back. I mean, okay, so listen. He's rehabbing his injury. This is probably his last season with the Browns, unless he has a terrific year of some sort, right? But they have $30 million assigned to Landry and him, right, at wide receiver. Once the quarterback money hits after, 2022, and Chubb money hits if they elect to bring him back, which I think they will, after this year, they're going to have to move some funds around, right? They can't have $30 million a year at wide receiver. Now, as far as this year goes, though, if you go to try to trade Odell Beckham Jr. right now, you're not going to get anything worth anything back. I mean, worth the value that you spent on him back. I think you're better off waiting.
My question is, I don't care about the value I'm getting. You get a third-round pick, a second-round pick. Okay. My question is, we've seen Baker Mayfield is so much more productive when OBJ is not on the field. And this is not a knock on either one of them. They're both very good. But I just think that Baker looks for him too much, and it shortens the offense.
I agree. That was right? So we saw that for a season under Freddie Kitchens, and we saw that for 6 games last year, right? Before he got hurt. 7 games before he got hurt last year. And it looked like that. And then when he went away, Baker was fantastic the rest of the year, right? However, I think there is something to Baker getting comfortable in this offense under Stefanski, learning how to do it, because he got better with every game down the stretch, right? He was just getting better and better, more comfortable, to the point that they didn't have to depend on the play action anymore. He could just go shotgun or straight drop back, and he was lighting people up like he was back in Oklahoma. He had an incredible end of the season, right? So now you bring Odell Beckham Jr. back, right? And insert him into an offense with a confident Baker Mayfield, and maybe we get a different result. If it's the same result, oh well, move on from him. Trade him before the trade deadline, sit him down, put him on the IR, whatever. It's not going to hurt you. But you can at least give it a shot, because say it does take off, that just takes that offense to a whole nother level.
And in all fairness to Odell Beckham Jr., I said the same thing about Le'Veon Bell when he was under Adam Gase, who was a disaster. Le'Veon Bell has been a model jet. He's like, whatever it takes to win. Same thing with Odell Beckham Jr. He's like, I want to win. So this stress of, we got to get him the ball, it's not coming from Odell Beckham Jr., at least publicly. He's been a model guy in Cleveland.
It's not coming from. He's not saying anything to do it, but he kind of exudes that. Like he's a body language guy. Like I get pissed because I don't like his body language on the field, right? Like he shows everything on his sleeve. And I'm like, that's not the way to
Which
handle
a lot
right?
a lot of elite wide receivers do. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But when he does it, everybody pays attention, right? Because he's like the world
Larger than
famous
life.
OBJ, right?
Yes,
He's large.
yeah.
He walks into a room and everything
Right.
shuts down. And everybody looks his way. So it has affected Baker. I think there's a lot of layers to this. It's a complicated situation. It 100% has affected the way that he quarterbacked when he was in the game. My hope is that he matured as his game got better last year. He has a good feeling for the way the offense is run this year. And Stefanski, being the intelligent guy that he will bring OBJ in with like, hey, let's get him the ball in this situation. Let's get him the ball early here. Now things are comfortable. And he does provide something they need, and that's that deep threat, take the top off the defense. Without him, they don't have that. And so if he were to excel, and that offense were to take off, and Baker weren't to press, and just distribute the ball like he does naturally, I think Odell could have a really good year, and the offense could really, really explode. And that could be something they need. I mean, you need those weapons. You can't just ignore Odell Beckham Jr. as a weapon because of what we've seen up to this point. Let's hope that we can grow from that.
Yeah, listen, Tyreek Hill can turn a game around in a heartbeat. So can Odell Beckham Jr. You need that when you're competing against elite offenses. And my whole thing is, and I said this when they got him, I will take Jarvis Landry and maybe 10 less catches a year and 3 less touchdowns, but you don't get the antics. Jarvis Landry is a perfect fit in Cleveland. He does whatever they need him to do. And I think Jarvis Landry is the number one wide receiver this year. I love what they've done with the tight end and Hooper when they signed him. And even the young wide receivers played pretty well last year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So Rashad Higgins is a hometown favorite, right? Because he was on the second team with Baker his rookie year when they had the Tyrod Taylor thing, and they've been together since then. They have a real connection, and Higgins had an absolutely huge year last year, especially down the stretch and in the playoffs. And they brought him back on a 1-year deal this year, so for the second straight year, he took less money to stay with Baker. So they have a real relationship, and he's their third wide receiver. And the big surprise last year was Donovan Peoples-Jones, who really came on.
From Michigan, yeah, he really came on, right? You like him, don't you?
Yeah, and he's a guy that was like he's a 5-star consensus five-star recruit coming into college. He has all the tools, the size, the speed, everything. He just played at Michigan where they have shitty quarterbacks.
Were you shocked? and they have a terrible offensive coach in Harbaugh. Were you shocked when they got him because you're like, wow, we have so many wide receivers. Why are we going for Peoples here?
No, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like, I'm glad they took a receiver this year. They took the fastest guy in the draft in Anthony Schwartz, right, in the third round. He has 4.25 speed. He's a track athlete from Auburn. I think you know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
they
of course.
took him because what's going to happen after this year? You have to start thinking about the succession plan at the wide receiver position now. The 3 guys that are there, Landry, Beckham, and Higgins, your top 3 guys, none of them are guaranteed to be there in 2022. So you've got to think ahead. I think Landry will be there no matter what because he's the heart and soul of the Browns, and I think they'll keep him no matter what they have to do. But I don't expect OBJ to be there unless he has an incredible season.
So just to recap, you like them getting Anthony Schwartz, where some people were like, hey, we're pretty talented at wide receiver.
No, I expected him to take a wide receiver in the first 4 picks because I think you have to think succession plan there. After this season, there's nothing there besides DPJ. So you got to start replacing those pieces now. That's what smart teams do, right? You have somebody ready to step in right away. And the other thing with him is the one thing that wide receiver room doesn't have is straightaway burner speed.
Burner speed, yeah. And it's all possession guys over the middle. Yeah.
Yep.
No, and listen, I've been saying this for years. You look at what LSU, the wide receivers, do. You look at what Alabama's wide receiving crew has done with Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, Julio Jones, and now you have this guy from Auburn. They're going up against elite defenses, so-called elite defense in the SEC. So I think right now, jumping on an Ole Miss wide receiver, you see DK Metcalf. Anytime you could get an SEC wide receiver, there's nothing to guarantee in the NFL draft, but SEC wide receivers have huge success. Odell Beckham Jr.
Yep, no question. I mean, you're playing against all the best corners coming out in the draft, generally from the SEC, all the best wide receivers from the SEC. They're playing against each other, right?
Yep. Six first-round picks for Alabama this year, tied the record for 2004 with the Miami Hurricanes. Nick Saban never gets old. He just gets better. All right, finally, talking with Brad Ward here live on the Full Monty Sports Show. Is it Super Bowl or bust? And when was the last time you said that about any team in Cleveland that LeBron James wasn't playing on?
Well, I don't think I've ever said that about any team. Championship or bust. I haven't said that about any team. I might have said that about like the 2017 Indians after they went to the World Series against the Cubs.
That team was super talented.
Yeah, they should have that in the 90s. The Indians teams with Bell and Baerga and those guys, those years we were like, when they lost to the Marlins, like that year it was win it all or bust, right? But other than those 2 years with the Indians, I don't think I've ever said that. I'm not going to say that about this Browns team because you notice in the NFL, I think that like you got to break down a wall each year, right? So like if they can get to the AFC Championship game this year, I would consider that a success.
Okay, so win the division, get to the AFC Championship, that's a successful season for you.
This year, yes. And then after that, it's pretty much time to do it, Yeah,
listen, I think over the next 5 years, I think the Chargers and the Browns are the two teams to watch for. Finally, Brad, before we let you go, my dad's a huge Met fan. This guy has been so disappointing. Did you see this coming? He signed a $350 million contract. Did you see this coming, or what should we expect when he plays his best? Because he was a Cleveland guy for a while.
Yeah, just be patient with him. I mean, the guy is an incredible, incredible baseball player. And you know how baseball is. I mean, this is just how it is. When guys start pressing, or it's like golf, you get the yips, you press, whatever, and you can go into these funks. He'll come out.
Were you a fan of his when he was there?
100%. I love Frankie. He was the man. Incredible player, incredibly clutch when he's playing well. Does all the things that you want in the dugout. He was a great guy all around. Always got that big smile on his face. I expect him to come out of it and be a star in New York. Don't worry about it. He's pressing early, but he'll come out of it.
What I love about him is he's so infectious on the field. Like they threw out a player at second base to win the game. He went crazy. Like he was so is that something he brought to the team? Just his emotion, his energy? I mean, because even though he's slumping in the field, he still gets so motivated when he throws someone out, when he does something defensively.
Yeah, I mean, he's incredible defensively too. And a lot of times, the nice thing about that is that a lot of teams will just take a really good defensive shortstop because you need it. And if anything he gives you offensively is a bonus, right? Well, I guess that's probably how it was about 10 years ago. Right. Now you expect a guy to hit some, but I mean, he will provide you that offense for sure. And it'll be tremendous. I mean, he'll go on a 20, 25 game, a month
where he's batting like
streak.
380 or something, right?
Yeah, we'll hear about like 380 and hit like 7-8 home runs or something like that. So he's the guy. Give him time. Anytime this happens with a trade, you got to think about the weight of the pressure of New York on you. You sign that big deal. Baseball, that's tough, man. Anytime you have a reason to press in baseball, guys seem to press, right? And
I say this all the time, too. It's a lot different if you're playing for – Cleveland's a bigger sports market, but it's not as big as New York. For example, if you're playing for the Minnesota Twins or the Tampa Bay, you go on the road, there's 5 reporters. You go on the road with the Mets, there's 25 reporters. I mean, there's a blogger. So the pressure's there, but I don't think New York is too big for him. He's embraced the moment. He's criticized himself openly, where A-Rod would never do that. A-Rod would get contentious with the media. So the media seems to like him. I'm waiting for him to get on one of those runs.
He will. He will. He'll come around, and in the meantime, he will still have an effect on the game defensively and in the dugout. And he'll do the little things if he's asked to, like bunt and move runners over, things like that. So, he's a good baseball player all around, and he's a superstar at his best. So, we miss it. I miss him. It's sad to see him in New York. It really is.
Brad, love having you on. I lived in Cleveland for about a year and a half, so I say this to you all the time. It makes me feel so happy that someone like you who's so talented in the work you do, you're finally being able to cover a winning team and things are going right, and that only helps your career, which you're phenomenal at. But let's be honest, if you're covering a team like if I was covering the Jets and they're winning 2 games, no one cares.
Right, yeah. Except for the people in Cleveland. They care. They care.
They care, win, lose, no matter what. How can we follow you? How can we support you?
Yeah, for sure. I write for USA Today Sports Media Groups at BrownsWire.com. Just got done with, I'm running down UDFA tape right now and everything, but a long weekend of draft covering that for the Wire, and we even did a live show after the Browns pick on Thursday night. And the show is All Eyes on Cleveland. Back there on the shirt here, All Eyes on Cleveland podcast and YouTube channel. Where all popular podcasts are found. Plus, you can go follow the YouTube channel if you would like. We're doing shows multiple times a week, covering all kinds of stuff. Great guests from all over the country. Cool story, Monte. Troy Hill, right? Signed by the Browns. Real quick, as a cornerback, Troy Hill. I did do a bunch of shows on this is how the Browns can get better on the cheap, right? Get the best slot corner in the game. Troy Hill did a bunch of videos on him. His manager or representation saw the show. So when he signed with the Browns, he DM'd me and was like, hey, thanks for all the support. We're glad that he's coming to Cleveland. Of course, I had to ask him for an interview, so I had Troy Hill on my show. It was awesome. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So you did all the work before, and then his manager was like, we love having this. We love seeing it, and he came on your show. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, as soon as he signed, he was like, yeah, we love all the support, so thanks for the support. He's ended up coming to Cleveland, and I was like, well, let me interview him. So he set it up for us, and it worked out well.
Awesome. That's great.
Also, for George Lopez, I donated already, so
great job. Thank you, Brad.
So there you go. And
that's great. Listen,
awesome opportunity for his son. That's amazing. So.
Yeah, I've coached AAU. I know how expensive these tournaments are, so we're all trying to help out. Thank you for doing that. Really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the show. You're always welcome here. We'll see you in a few weeks.
Thanks, guys.
Brad Ward, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give Brad and let's give Lindsay. You know what's so amazing? This is what's so amazing about the guests on my show. And again, I'm not taking credit for it. I am not taking credit for it at all. But I'm going to give both of these guests a huge round of applause, and here's why, right? We have Lindsay Bobo come on, and she is so emotional and so passionate and so funny. She lets her emotions, run with it, and we love having it on. And then we have Brad, who's like Mr. Cleveland, knows everything about Cleveland sports, almost like a tactician. Yes, he gets emotional, but he's more of a scientist and just breaking down all these things. So this is why I wanted both of them, and this is why I was so excited to get both of them on the show, because you have someone who's just all emotion. And look, Lindsay knows her Broncos. She knows, I'm not saying, but her strength is her emotion and passion. And Brad's strength is breaking things down. Even though he's a fan, he thinks more with his head. So it was 2 totally unique perspectives on 2 totally different teams. So I want to thank all of you for watching. I want to thank my guest, Brad Ward. I want to thank Lindsay Bobo. And now it's time for our extra point. Listen, it is very hard to be a Jet fan. They have not been to a Super Bowl since 1969. But I got to tell you, the draft that the Jets have done, they drafted Zach Wilson. They draft the offensive lineman Tucker. They get an absolute playmaker in Elijah Moore. They drafted the safety. They drafted 2 safeties. They drafted a running back. The Jets, everything that you could put a check mark down on what the Jets needed, they did. They're building a team around Zach Wilson. They never did this for Sam Darnold. By the way, I think Sam Darnold is going to be phenomenal in Carolina with the weapons they have and Matt Rule. But the New York Jets, and again, I know it's hard to root for the Jets because they haven't been to a Super Bowl in 1969, but this brain trust is building a team, which on paper, they're doing everything right. They're doing everything right. Again, want to thank my guests. Want to thank you. We're going to take off next week because we have a Mother's Day. So enjoy Mother's Day. And again, our goal is to do this 5 days a week. How do we do it? Like this show with a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Nuts and Bolts YouTube sports channel. And again, we are doing a fundraiser for George Lopez's son. If you can, go to his Venmo account, George/Lopez/3771, and donate. I want to thank all of you for watching the full Monte Sports Show. And in the immortal words of Arnold Schwarzenegger, I don't have my sunglasses, but I will be back.
The Team Nuts and Bolts Sports Store is officially open. Log on to www.teamnbsmerch.com and get your t-shirts, hoodies, polos, all sizes available. Once again, log on to teamnbsmerch.com.